my sermon on the gift of hope, right? Because we've been looking at the different things that have been given to us from God in terms of the Christmas season. And one of the things that we were looking at the movie in God's things, shall we say, we were looking at the gift of giving, right? How we have been blessed to give. And then last week was, anybody remember? Because I forgot. I'm serious. What is it? Thank you, gift of family. I'm waiting for my husband to help me. I think he forgot too. All right. Anyway, yes, I should have. Anyway, but today we're going to start with the gift of hope. So if you turn your attention to the screens for a short clip of the movie, you'll see how it connects.
Santa Claus probably brought it.
Wait to try it out.
Do you know how to load it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's right.
Be careful. They run all over. Close her up. Close it up.
Can I try it out, Ma? Can I?
Okay, but outside. Oh, I still say those things are dangerous. No, put on your galoshes and your coat. It's cold out.
I had one when I was 8 years old.
What if you hurt himself? Hurry, your coat! Don't shoot any animals or birds.
Okay, Black Bart. Now you get yours.
Oh my God, I shot my eye out.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
You'll shoot your eye out! Mouthy, you be careful out there. Don't shoot your eye out.
She hadn't seen. She didn't know. My eye's all right. The BB must have hit my glasses. My glasses? Oh no, where are my glasses?
So if you do not know the movie, the context behind this is that he has spent all movie begging for this Red Ryder BB gun. He was asking everybody. He was asking Santa. He was asking his mom. He was asking everybody possible. But he never asked his father, right? And it's funny because he kept trying to manipulate it the whole time. Instead of having the hope of, well, this is something that I have as a desire in my heart, will it happen? He tried to control everything that could happen. No one could deter his faith, even when he got beat up and even when he beat up somebody else. And he had to depend on somebody else completely for this. And mind you, he went through mocking. He went through disappointment. If you remember the other day, it was the scene of waiting in line to see Santa, and Santa even told him, you're going to shoot your eye out, right? So he didn't think he was going to get this thing. But the funniest thing is he did not go to the one he could have asked, and that was his father. And I will tell you this, a little bonus idea here. Once he did get it, he ended up shooting, not his eye out, but he did get hurt. So everybody was right in terms of what he was going to get out of this, but the fact is sometimes something that we really want still will have consequences. right? And with Ralphie, one of the things that we can see in this is when God gives us a promise, like he had in his mind, we tend to try and control the blessings and how we get them. Ralphie was doing everything throughout this movie to try and get the blessings the way he thought he should get it. Like, oh, I'm going to tell this person, I'm going to tell this person, this person. And he finally given up on Christmas morning. And the one who gave it to him was his father, the one person he didn't ask. So it had nothing to do with Ralphie. It had to do with his father. So I encourage us in this. God has given the people of the earth, all of us, hope through his birth, his death, and his resurrection, through Christ, his son. And we still try to control it. Look at culture. We have people doing Christmas their way. The culture tries to hijack it, make it about them, as opposed to what it really is about, the birth and salvation story for us. We're reminded that whatever we're going through, whatever season you're in, is to have hope. Even if you don't feel it or see it, it's there. When you read in the Old Testament, the Israelites in the wilderness, they had the hope of a promised land. God told them. But they kept trying to manipulate things their own way, and they ended up wandering around for 40 years before they actually entered that land. But the hope was still there. Look at Noah. You know, we look at stories at a glance, and we think, oh, you know, it was so wonderful for them. Noah was probably one of the few, he was the only one, him and his family, who believed in what was going to happen. And he built this boat against everyone's opinion. And he was right. He held on to the hope from God. Abraham and Sarah, they waited years for a child. Abraham was over 100 years old when they finally got pregnant. Talk about waiting. But that's the hope that God gives us. The world's history is full of people with hope. Many people trusted God well. And we watch their stories who say that was a great way to wait on God. Others, not so much. They tried to manipulate their own blessings and turn things for themselves, like Abraham and Sarah. They tried to have their own child through their maidservant and ended up with a whole other group of people that we are in fight with still today. But all of that to remind us that God is the one who gives us our hopes and dreams. What we have in our hearts for something comes from somewhere. I pray it's from God. Sometimes it's not. We have to be careful with that. We need to test our hearts in the things that get put in there. But when God gives you a specific hope, you ever had that in your mind and just won't go away? Maybe it's a hope of a new situation, new home, a change in a relationship. Maybe your kids coming back to the Lord. Or maybe your next meal. It could be a hope of anything. God is in it. And he is working behind the scenes where we don't see to do everything possible. Maybe if it's even to get into college, you don't even realize all the things going on that we have no control over. Maybe it doesn't make sense. Maybe that hope and dream in your heart, right? When God spoke to Rich about this church, it was one of those things that's like, it didn't make sense. You know, we're not spring chickens anymore. We're past middle age, but okay. That's right, Abraham and Sarah, there you go. Those are the reminders, the encouragement that if God gave it to you, he's going to fulfill it, right? And this is one of the things that we're going to be talking about. We have to wait on what God says. And sometimes people think you're crazy. When God puts something in your heart that he wants for you and a promise, it may not be happening right now, but it's still something he put in there. I have a really close friend who had for years a vision of a child she was going to adopt. She even gave it a name, made up the room. And I'm not going to lie, I was one of those that didn't believe her. And I was like, okay, my friend's gone nuts. Guess what? It happened. She did her part. She took the classes for foster care and all that kind of stuff and had everything ready as they asked her. And I promise you, from one day to the next, she called me and said, hey, they called us to pick up a daughter, a little girl, just like she saw. It was a promise God gave her. It didn't make sense to anyone else, but she hung on, and God fulfilled it. And now it's all about his glory, not about what she did, not about what we thought. It was about God. And those hopes and dreams come from God are so powerful because sometimes you're the only one who will believe it. In Hebrews 11:1, the letter from Paul, he writes, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Sometimes we don't see what's happening. We don't know the path that it's going to take, but God will still do it. If he put it in your heart and mind, it's his timing. Don't give up hope. Maybe it's the promise of a new situation, like we said. Maybe it's a loved one being cured from addiction, restoration of a relationship, healing of a marriage, the healing of a child. There's so many things that are promises and hopes that we sometimes don't want to believe God for because it takes a lot of faith. And we got to be careful. Like I mentioned, sometimes those desires are not of God. When you see certain desires that kind of become obsessive and take over your mind, and that's all you think about and actually gets in the way of you focusing on God, that is not of God. That could be of the enemy. That's the enemy keeping you away from your purpose and your calling. Focusing on something that really might make sense to the world, right? I've known people that fight so hard to get this, and when they get it, it's like, well, now what? And in the process, they've destroyed the relationship with Christ and maybe other people in their path. If it's a desire of God, it's going to keep you pointing to him, not away from him. Keep that in your mind when God puts something on your heart. It needs to point to him, not away. The enemy also likes to keep us in despair. When God makes us wait for his purpose, maybe to glorify, to encourage somebody else watching you go through it, or maybe because he wants to do it his way, like the father did in Christmas Story. He wanted it to be the big surprise, right? God does that too. God loves to surprise us because that's the only way he can say it was him, not us. And when the enemy gets a hold, he kind of puts us in despair when we're waiting. Like, why isn't this happened yet? Why is this? I don't even know what to do. But God is so good. He gives us a hope, and he doesn't want anyone to perish. Maybe you've been praying 20 years for that family or that friend to come to Christ. And be honest, you may have given up already. Oh, they're never going to come to Christ. Nope. They've seen my life. Look at this. They still haven't come to Christ. And you have written them off. And God's like, I'm still working. You got to give me time. You still got to be the example. You still got to tell them about me. You still got to glorify me in everything that you do. Don't give up. Because if it was about us, then why do we give God the glory? We get the credit for the praying, but it's God that does all the work. We don't save people, God does. But he does use us. And we need to be available for him. So when he gives us those hopes and dreams of something better, we have to hold on to it and just wait on him. He'll do amazing things if you let him. Well, where does hope come from? It comes from God himself. We can't count on ourselves or other people. We can only count on God. And we see that in the Christmas story. Jesus came to bring hope. We have a messed up world, but it's been messed up for a long time. And in the Old Testament, it was a hot mess. But after Jesus came, there was this new hope that was so evident, and it was spreading like wildfire. It was the hope of something different, the hope of salvation. What Jews have been waiting for in terms of the Messiah finally came. In Romans, a letter from Paul to the Christians in Rome, he introduces the gospel to the church in Rome. Literally, this letter was meant to help unify the Christian Jews and the Christian Gentiles in the area, because they were kind of going against each other. Some of them were saying, no, you have to be circumcised. No, you have to do this. No, you have to do that. And the other ones were like, no, I'm still going to do my pagan stuff. So it was a hot mess, right? Paul was an incredible apostle and evangelist. He wanted to make sure everybody knew the correct doctrine and theology. But what I want to remind you of is the irony of this. Remember where Paul came from. If you don't know this, I'll do a quick synopsis. Paul was a Pharisee. Not only a Pharisee, he was the worst of them. He persecuted Christians on a regular basis. He was probably the one who gave the order for Stephen to be stoned, the first martyr in the New Testament, in the book of Acts. Paul was awful. But when God got a hold of him, and look it up in Acts, it's a beautiful story. Jesus changed him, and this was after the resurrection. He actually didn't know Jesus personally before his crucifixion. He knew him after the fact. And that's when God turned his world upside down. So now Paul, who would go around going after Christians, was the first one to say, let's be Christians. Let me tell you about Jesus, right? But imagine that. Do you think they believed him the first time? Imagine the worst sinner in the world. All of a sudden, they're not sinning anymore. It's kind of hard to believe, isn't it? There's a lot of people that can fake it for a while, and eventually things start to come out because, everything comes to light. Paul had to literally persevere in this so people would start believing him. He kept telling everybody about the gospel and trying to have integrity. I mean, he lost everything. His life of comfort, he started having to basically be homeless. He was a tent maker in order to make money. I mean, he had to depend on other people to give him a place to stay or food, but it didn't matter. What he was on fire about was telling everybody about Jesus, because he knew it was the only way for salvation and hope. Jesus is what brings hope, not people, not religion, not anything else. And I'm sure you can relate to this. When you maybe first gave your life to the Lord, people started looking at you crazy. Maybe they didn't trust you. Maybe they didn't want to even be with you too much. Sometimes people are more comfortable with you being a sinner than with you being a saint. Because the minute you actually give your life to the Lord and the Spirit is in you, you cause conviction around you. Just walking through the door of a room, you will sense it. People will be like, oh, this one's here. Okay, right? They start checking themselves. And it could be bad at first, but just remember that's the Spirit in you. That's not you, that's Jesus. So if they're feeling convicted, it's not because of you, it's because of God in you, right? So don't be afraid of that. Don't be embarrassed of it. Be bold. Understand that when that's happening, it's a good thing. And when it's not happening, reflect on yourself. Maybe you're doing something wrong. Maybe you're sliding back in that sinful life without even realizing it. So just putting it in there. And understand, like I said, his life was hard. He was beaten, he was betrayed, he was jailed, and all of this for Christ. You know how hard it is to tell people, oh, you got to be a Christian. Oh, that means life's going to be better? No. It could get worse. But it doesn't matter, because God is the one who gives you the hope. And without him, your eternity will not be where it should be. God doesn't want anyone to perish. He wants us all to be with him. But he gives us free will and we choose it. He is not going to make us. He's not a dictator. He doesn't do that. And Paul knew that. And in his writings, all his negative circumstances, he used it for God's good. Do you know half the time he was arrested, he was writing letters to everybody else? That's most of the New Testament. Written during times of his trials and tribulations. Paul had hope. He had the hope of Christ. In Romans 15:13, he writes, "May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him." Notice that that's conditional. God is a God of hope, and he will fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him. A lot of people, oh, he's supposed to give me peace. No, you're supposed to trust him, and he'll give you peace. There's the opposite. You have to there is an act of faith that we have to do. We have to be proactive in that. If we don't trust him, he can't do his work, because then we start to do everything on our own. We'll talk about that in a second. Paul found hope in his circumstances, and he was reminding Christians in the book of Romans to be filled with that hope and trust. Joy comes from God, not our circumstances. And I know many of us have gone through many things. Many of us are still going through many things. Our joy is not in the circumstances. It's not in what we have. It's not in how easy our life is right now or how good our relationships are. They are in God and what he can do for you. He's the peace. If you wake up in the morning, I know I'm having a good day and I'm ready for God because I'm already singing when I wake up in my head. I'm singing new songs. What a God. He is worthy. All these things. Because I know that it's me. I have to seek him and put him first in my life. Focus on that. But when it feels like hope is running out because you're tired, because we're human, and it's been a minute, sometimes we try to control it. We have to remember that God does things in his way, not ours. God came to earth as a child to save us. He came to be born and then die because we were broken, and we still are. We can't do this on our own, not on our power, not on our own salvation. We can't be good enough. We can't do anything good enough. It doesn't matter how many things we give, how much money we give, how many times we deny ourselves. God has to be the one that is first in our life, and it has to be done in his way. Watch for society for a minute. You'll see how broken the world is. It's always a joke. We watch the news like, ooh, they need Jesus. It's always a thing. But it's true. And we saw this in the Old Testament too, when they were waiting for the Messiah. They were impatient and did not want to wait for the Messiah, so they started making up their own rules. They started putting man-made laws. Do you know that there's a difference between the laws and the commandments? Not everybody knows that. There's 10 commandments that came clearly from God and from the mountain with Moses. But then, waiting on the Messiah, they kept saying, oh, we're not good enough. And they came up with about 613 laws. Now, Jesus came and fulfilled all those. That's why we are not bound by them anymore. Right? We don't have to have our hair a certain way or other things like that. Yes, we can eat pork. Right? But all of that was to keep us more perfect, right? More perfect for him, but we didn't need to. God came anyway as the perfect sacrifice. When Jesus finally came, he came in a very humble way. And we'll talk about that tomorrow, Noche Buena, Buena, Buena. He came as a baby. Think of that indignity. He had to have his diapers changed. He had to be fed by his mother. When he started walking, he probably parted a little bit of water. No, he probably stumbled and had to be picked up. These are the things that he went through for us. He had to work. People have this assumption, oh, he was just doing nothing. No, he had to work with his dad to make money, to help provide. They weren't well off. And then when his father probably died, because we don't know for sure, but he's not mentioned after a while, Joseph, he had to take care of his mother because he was the firstborn son. These are the things that we don't pay attention to. All we pay attention to is, oh, he was supposed to come in the clouds in glory. Yeah, he's going to do that in end times. But when he first came, like it says in Isaiah, he came humbly, with of no countenance. He didn't even look handsome. In the garden, they had to point him out because they couldn't tell who Jesus was. He looked like any one of us, or any one of them, actually, in the Middle East. And God fulfilled the hope of the Messiah in his way. That's why the Jews and the Pharisees didn't want to believe him, because he didn't come the way they thought. He was supposed to come in glory on this big horse and gold and save them from Rome, because they were being persecuted by Rome. So when he came and said, I came to die for you, and they're like, oh, okay, so you're going to fix the Roman government? He's like, no, I came to save you from yourselves. It's not about saving us from a government or anything like that. It's about saving us from ourselves and our sinful nature. And that's what he did. He fulfilled the hope of the Messiah in his way, not ours. Think of it, guys. That's the epitome of pride. Yes, God, come and save me, but hey, I want you to do it this way. Because, that's not good enough. It needs to be like this. Why? If we ask that, then it's more about us than about God's sacrifice. God is the one who came to be born and die and be resurrected. He did it his way, not ours. Those Pharisees ended up worshiping more their religion than the relationship with their Father. It was more about what they could do, what they said, what they did, and they wanted Jesus to fall into their pattern. And when he didn't, that's when they crucified him. We have to remember that God does things in his way. I'm sure you've said it before. God, I wanted my life this way. Why is it not happening? God, I don't have enough. God, it's not supposed to be this hard. God, I did things the right way. Why am I suffering? I did everything right, Lord. Why is this happening? Because it's not about us. It's about what God is going to do. He wants to do miracles in our lives, but we have to trust him and let him do it his way. In 2 Peter 3, 8 through 9, it's a very encouraging verse for me always. But do not forget this one thing, dear friends. With the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day. The Lord is not slow in keeping his promise, as some understand slowness. Instead, he is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. God is patient. He's going to wait. But are we able to wait for him? Are we patient enough to know he's working in the background and that he's doing everything for his good? Peter was writing to a bunch of Christians at that time that were being persecuted. And this was shortly before he was going to be martyred. And if we know anything about Peter, he messed up a lot. But God still gave him grace and used him for his purposes. And he's writing this from experience. There was many promises that took a long time for him. And we need to see that. When we lose our focus on God, we start to feel the despair and we get desperate, guys. We can't control the things that are meant to be taken care of by him. There's so many things in our life we cannot control. I love the old song by Carrie Underwood, Jesus Take the Wheel. And it's funny because people will tell me, yeah, I gave him the wheel. Did you? Or did you try and take it back? When we're not with God, imagine me being in the driver's seat. We're driving the car. And Jesus is right next to us. He's in the passenger seat. He's waiting on us to ask him. And every so often we will. We're controlling it. So where should I go, Jesus? And he's like, can you just let me drive? No, tell me where to go. Okay, go this way. Oh, yeah, good. And something good happens, you're like, all right, I got this. But you're still in control. When you finally get that, what I call revelation, when that big testimony in your life or something terrible happens in your life or something that God has done miraculously, and all of a sudden you finally realize, okay, Jesus, I'm hopping in the passenger seat. And he's driving. That's the best feeling in the world. But you got to be careful because sometimes that feeling goes away. And you start to get nervous because he's taking a long time. His routes are longer than what you would do. Jesus, why are you going that way? Wait, Jesus, there's a shortcut this way. You can take the 836. Why are you taking Chrome? Right? I don't know. I'm probably wrong on that one. Why are you taking that way? Jesus, hold on, Jesus. And then it's worse off than before. Because now you're trying to drive the car from the passenger seat, taking control over God. You cannot. That is sometimes worse than if you were driving the car yourself. Think about it. When you were driving the car, you hit every pothole, you went the wrong way, you did all these things that you shouldn't do. Jesus took over, you were relaxed. You allowed it to happen. You allowed your pride to be swallowed. You allowed God to take over. When things were not going right, it's like, well, Jesus is in control, so I got to wait on him. But when we get impatient and we think we have to control it, we start reaching that hand over and we start controlling everything that he's trying to do. And when we do that, that's when we get frustrated. and we become a bad example to others about Christ because we don't trust. We're not having faith. Listen, I know my husband will disagree, but I trust him completely. We go up on a long ride. I'm asleep. I'm like, okay, I'm asleep. I'm asleep. Can you sleep at the wheel with Jesus? With your life, can you sit back and allow Jesus to take over? It is one of the hardest things to do because we think we have control over our lives. We think we can do things to make it different. We can pray more, or we can call this person and send them this verse. Some of the worst times in my life, I was sending people verses thinking that it's going to fix them, and it's like they had a hardened heart. And it was about me trying to fix them as opposed to me giving them to God. Till you let go and allow them to have the consequences of what God wants to do in their life so that they can learn on their own, that's when God can do his biggest work. You cannot tell God, please take care of this, and then not let it go. He can't do anything about it. Look at Ralphie in the Christmas Story. He spent the whole movie trying to get everybody to get him the Red Ryder BB gun. Telling everybody. He was controlling it. And it's funny because he was focusing so much on that, he forgot about his father or his family. He really wasn't even focusing on that. And not until did he relax and let go of like, oh, well, I'm not going to get it. That's when his father showed up with the Red Ryder BB gun. Guys, that happens in our life all the time. And what's sad is how quickly we'll forget it. Something like that will happen, and then all of a sudden, you get amnesia. And you forgot about all the things that God did before and all the miracles. Yeah, God, but that was a big thing. I'll take control of this one. And God's like, still in the wheel, going, oh, okay, you want to take control again? And this is not a Tesla; it won't drive itself. You have to, you have to let God do it. They tease me because I have one. It's one of those things that if we don't let go, God can't do it. After a while, like we said, we start to lose hope because the things take too long for us. God has his own timing. We have to wait on the Lord. When you're getting desperate and losing that hope, the only thing you can do is focus on him. Only thing. Pull up your Bible. Start reading again. 1 Peter's a good one. Romans is a good one. James got me through heck and back. So many books in the Bible that I'm telling you right now, if you don't have one that you're holding on to and have good memories of, oh, this is the one that got me through it, you're not seeking God enough. When you are going through it, dig deep into the Word. Read it. Meditate on it. Read it again. Everybody laughs at me because I write all over my Bible. But I love it because if I go read something again, I'll see where I was years before. Because I put the date and what I was thinking. And it's a beautiful reminder of what God can do in many different ways. It's not just once, and it's not one way. He does it his way, not ours. He is always working behind the scenes in everything in our life, and this is why we can have hope. When we don't focus on him, we lose that hope. We are not in control of anything in our lives other than our own reactions and our own integrity. We have to do what God asks us to do. I love it when somebody that I'm counseling tells me, all this is happening. Well, did you do this and this? No, but God knows my heart. Yeah, that's why he's trying to fix this. He knows your heart. That's why he's allowing you to go through it. He wants to change us to be more like him in everything. We need to swallow our pride and allow him to do it. And what's cool about it is God doesn't waste anything. In that process, other people are watching you and hopefully getting a little bit more of who he is. That's the whole point of this. If not, when we gave our lives to the Lord, he'd take us up in a minute. We're left here so that other people can see who he is and what he can do in our lives. Do not allow this despair that can happen to keep you from that close relationship with him. He gives us our hopes and dreams. Make sure you test it and that is of God, not of the enemy. He sent Jesus as the hope for the whole world. But honestly, guys, it's up for us to accept it. Many people hear the word of God and they just allow it to fall at the feet and keep on going. God works for you. I'm okay. And you're just waiting because you know one day they're going to need God. And you may be the one that they're going to go to because they remember. Always point people to Him. And the fulfillment of hope in our lives is God's timing. It's not in our control. We need to let go of those things. Whatever He's going to do, He's going to do. It's the easiest and the hardest thing to do. Sitting back and allowing Him to do it in your life can be like, but it's also like, when is this going to happen, Lord? Did you actually let go? You have to think yourself, if you don't have that peace, are you actually trusting Him? Remember, that peace comes from trusting, not just from being given. Ralphie had hope, but he was not mature enough and didn't know enough to go to his father. Let us not be Ralphie. Know that our Father in heaven loves you and wants the best for you. It may not be what you want, but it's what you need. It doesn't make sense, especially in a worldly economy. Some people have so much. Some people don't have a lot. But you've got to stop looking at it in that way. You got to look at it and if they have God. That faith and hope in God is what can get you through anything. Even the things that don't make sense. You can't allow the despair of this world to keep you from trusting and hoping in the Lord. This is a message for us. We need to wait for our hope. We need to hold on to it and know that God will do it. Think right now of that hope in your mind. I'm thinking of mine. Things that God has shown you. And you may be forgotten. That dream, that thing He put on your heart. Maybe it's restoration of something. Maybe it's a future, something that doesn't make sense. Some business that God gave you and it's just not happening yet. And you're like, well, okay, God, I'm getting older. Don't forget that God is in all the details. And He does it in a way that He makes sure that it's about Him, not about us. Okay? But if you don't have that relationship with God, you have to focus on that. God came as a baby in a manger, in the dirt, and did all these things that wouldn't make sense for the King of Kings, creator of the universe, Messiah. You hear those powerful words, you don't expect to see a child in a swaddle surrounded by animals. But He did that for us so that he felt, He could feel what we felt. He was betrayed. He felt hungry. He felt tired. He knew who we were. So that when He died for us, it was with that knowledge and relationship. Don't worship a religion. Don't worship things that you're supposed to do. If anybody tells you you're supposed to do certain actions to get to God, that's a man-made thing. God only says you have to accept His gift. He gives us tools to get closer to Him. Prayer, worship, fellowship with church. Giving is more blessed to receive. He tells us these things as fruits of being a Christian. But when He died on that cross, it was only for one reason. To die for our sins so we didn't have to. And because of that sacrifice, we could all be in heaven with Him. But you have to accept it. So in a minute, I'm going to pray. I'm going to ask you to put your heads down. And if you haven't given your life to the Lord completely, maybe you haven't hung on, maybe you haven't let go, and you haven't allowed Him to truly take control of your life and accepted what He wants for you. Dear Lord, I pray right now